done. Oh, hello, hello, hello.
What's up, everybody?
Guess we're waiting for. That's the obligatory statement. Waiting for some people to get on. You've joined the live with Tim and Jen. How's everybody doing? Come in and say hello. It is Saturday at 3, so
Yeah, no matter what you're doing today, we hope y'all are having a good day. We just wanted to go live. We got big things popping in terms of like our course getting ready to go live next week at Pioneers Conference, and then the official, um, I guess you, I guess you could say it's launching next week, and then we all go live together in the course the 21st.
yeah,
So that's kind of why we're doing this, prepping and preparing for that to happen. So we're pretty excited.
yeah. And guys, we're Tim and Jen. We've been married. How are you married 22 or 23 years?
23. Stop.
23
You're trying to get me in
years. I'm
trouble.
always
Is it
playing.
gonna be 23 in January,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
is
yeah. It's going to be 23 in January. And if you come in, say hello to us because we want to say hello to you. Um, but we have been, I think in 2020, I think I've already said this before, but in 2020, we did a sold out marriage conference. We moved to Rochester, New York, put all of our marriage stuff kind of on hold, but now we're back, guys. We're back. We're pulling it back out and we're doing exactly what God has asked us to do.
what's up, Brandy?
And Brandy, we're doing exactly what God has asked us to do. And so we hope y'all are praying for us. Are you? Let us know. But again, we're Pastors Tim and Jen. We now live in Wake Forest. My husband is a pastor at Legacy Center Church, right, babe?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I'm at the house chilling. No. But we want to talk about transition. And we kind of are going to spend this time talking about what it was like to do a 10-month transition and how we kept ourselves, how we kept our marriage healthy, happy, how we kept our kids during that transition. And what are some things that you can do if you guys are going through transition? Because transition is not just about moving. And the truth is, our family has been in some form of transition since 2018.
Yep.
And so um, anyway, we in 2018, my husband, we were pastoring a church and he started praying and telling me about dreams. Not that I wasn't praying, y'all. Not that I wasn't praying. But he started having dreams and he's like, babe, we are moving. Hey y'all, hey, whoever just came in. And I had kind of just graduated college. I had
Yep. Every 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. I had our kids were starting kindergarten, 6th grade, and 9th grade. And he starts having these dreams and he's like, babe, we are moving. We are moving. He has lived in Winston-Salem, North Carolina his entire life. And so when he started telling me we were moving, I was like, boy, go back to bed. Like, what are you talking about? And so he was like, God is moving us. We are moving. And I had just started a new job. And again, I was saying that, you know, our kids were starting schools. And so I was like, all right, I'm not going to leave him out here in the dust. I'm going to like pray too and see what God has been saying. And so the transition, it was kind of like that in 2018. And so I learned kind of I'm a creature of habit, you guys. I'm a very like stable person. I need stability. And so having to learn through us transitioning as a unit, what did it look like to build trust and kind of to build um the stamina and the understanding with each other to like be able to trust and kind of flow together and go together is one thing that we really had to learn to even make a transition with somebody who is just very, I'm a creature of habit. I need stability and stuff like that. And he's kind of always been like our dreamer and our mover and our shifter in our relationship. And we just kind of had to learn how to flow together with that.
Yeah, and it's important that when you talk about transition in marriage, um, the reason why it's important to discuss those things is because if you have a relationship that you're always arguing, or if you have a relationship where you think that what you see in front of you is what you're always going to see, whether it's the school that your children attend, whether it's the city that you live in, whether it's the church that you attend, there's this thing that happens in our human mind and our human nature where I don't believe really anybody likes change. I think that certain people do well with change in terms of like just accepting it, and then there's others who don't do well, and some of us who are in between. But that's the reason why you talk about transition in marriage, because if you plan on being married for a lifetime, meaning years, we're talking about my parents have been married for 50 years. If you're talking about clocking in 50 years with one person, then there's going to be a lot of transition. And so if you don't know how to transition,
Hey.
and can y'all put y'all's name, like, it's for some reason it's putting Facebook user instead of the actual
Yeah.
persons. I don't know. But anyway, if you have plans to be married for 50 years in a relationship for a long time, you have to have discussions about transition. You have to have rules for transitions in terms of how you communicate, in terms of how you feel towards each other. There are moments we've now learned in transition where we'll be going at each other as if, you know, the other person has done something so deeply wrong. But what we figured out was every time, Dom and Steve, that's what I'm talking about. What's up,
Steve? Love y'all. Miss y'all.
But every time we transition, we now realize, and we realized before the last transition too, but we now realize that when you transition, it heightens emotions. And so that argumentative behavior that you so want to badly jump into is really not the other person's fault. They really haven't done anything. What's up, Ree?
I love you. I miss you.
But what happens is you have to learn how to communicate with each other versus allowing your emotions and your feelings to take over. And now we just fussed each other out, but we're really just worried about the moving truck, or you're really worried about how you're going to afford this college for your kids. And for some of you, that is coming up soon. Your kids are going to college and you're going to face the stress of, you know, do we get them into an apartment? Do we get them on campus? What if they can't get on campus? Do they go to a school that's close by? Are they going to go to a school that's in another state? And then you have these little humans that have their own personalities, their own wants, needs, and desires. And so now you have a kid who's like, man, I'm moving to Arizona. You like, bro, we live on the East Coast. What are you talking about? But it's a reality. And so this is why we talk transition, because if you plan, this is the main reason. If you plan on being married for 50 years, if you plan on being married for years to come, you are going to transition, whether it's every 5 years, whether it's every 10 years, transition is going to happen. So first it's the acceptance that this is going to be a thing. So you can woosah, you can breathe deep and know like, oh snap, we may not live in this city for the rest of our lives. Wow, we may not live in this house for the rest of our lives. You know, it's great to talk about. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Not planning for Japan.
And what are you gonna do? Like shut them down? Like, no, you're not. You're never going to Japan. Well, then they're just gonna resent you. So this is what we're talking about. How do you stay on that fence or that guideline, that narrow path, so to speak, when your kids start screaming Japan and you want them to be, 30 minutes in the next city over?
And learning through, like, I think my husband already said it. It's not just moving transitions, it's life transitions. When your kids go from infant years to like toddler to then like adolescent to then teens, y'all are the whole family is transitioning. when you're switching out from elementary to middle to high school, these are such different levels of switching. When your kids are trying to decide college and you're trying to allow them to be their own little person, these are transitions that you and your spouse and the entire family goes through together. If you're listening to this right now, I want you to type in transition, because I want you to realize that in your marriage, like my husband has stated, that if you want to stay married for a long period of time, you have to learn how to seamlessly transition together. It's going to be it's an adjustment period, but you're going to have to learn how to do it, and how to do it gracefully, how to do it with empathy, how to do it with care, and how to do it together.
And what it means to learn is to say, like, for instance, when we get ready to transition into something, whether it's moving, whether it's church, whether it's whatever, we have conversations with our children. We break down what this transition is going to feel like, what it's going to look like. Because remember, their emotions are not developed fully yet, right? So they don't know that, oh, that's why I feel a little, depressed today. That's why I feel a little, overly excited or angry today, because I'm transitioning. So you have to have conversations with your kids to let them know, hey, this is happening, and here's what this looks like, and here's the part that you play in this transition. That way they all have a role. They know their identity still. They know that they're important. They still matter, even though it looks as if the move or the transition is way more important than them. But when you talk to your kids and let them know this transition is not more important than you, but it is happening, and here's how we're going to navigate this change, and then it gives them solace. It gives them peace of mind to know, okay, my parents haven't changed, switched up on me, or on each other, but this is the reality of what is happening. And so one thing that we did in a practical sense, you may have seen us on Facebook, kind of celebrating it, but we told our kids, whenever you start feeling like, man, we really miss Rochester, we really miss our friends, like we're almost like we can't get over how much we miss it. Now, if you can dismiss it like, man, I really miss my friends, and then you can dismiss it, hey, let's keep trucking. But if you hit that moment where you cannot dismiss that deep feeling of sadness inside of yourself, let us know, because we're flying you up. It was like clockwork.
Yeah.
And it's no sooner than my daughter started feeling like, man, she just kind of started going down. Now, keep in mind, this is the girl that's like all A's, 1B. She made the cheerleading squad. She made the worship team. I'm talking about all in the last like 3 months, but she started feeling like a little down.
Yeah.
So immediately we purchased tickets. We contact their best friends, the moms, to try to navigate and get everything together. And then we sent them back up to Rochester, because that's what we promised them.
Yeah.
And what happens when you do that, you keep your promises, you give them the emotional safety of, I can feel however I'm going to feel, and as long as I communicate, my parents are going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Now you transition well, because they're not looking at us like, my parents moved me.
Yeah, and we need to talk about that emotional safety, because in the middle of our 10 months where my husband was traveling back and forth. So, okay, before I go back, I want to go back a little bit to our first transition when we moved from Winston-Salem to Rochester. There was a period of time, and we explained to the kids each step of the way, this is what's getting ready to happen. This is how this move is going to look. These are the things that we are going to do, just to make them know that we are not making a transition without them in mind. I continued to talk to them. Both of us continued to talk to them about the schools, the house. It was my prayer, like, God, if I'm going to take them to Rochester, if we're going to take them, let us take them to more and to better. So when we found a house that was bigger than our house in Winston, like, we kept them into the loop and in the process. We did a goodbye tour for them, so they would know every step of the way. And when London was missing Winston and missing friends and family, just like we sent her to Rochester, we sent her back to Winston. We made sure that our kids were included in every step of the way. Was it easy always? No. And did they want these moves every time? No. But I do think, as a parent and as a unit, these are the things that we knew we had to do for our family. And to be very transparent, for me, every single time now, we've done probably a couple of transitions where my jobs are like, we want to put you in management. We want to move you up. And I am having to tell them, no, I'm moving. And it is actually it's been a little bit heart-wrenching for me. So the very first time, my job was ready to move me into leadership and all this stuff, and I had to tell them I'm moving. And I think the trust that we've had to build, the empathy that we have to have for each other, and honesty and communication, I have to be able to share with him what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. It's not easy for me, but I trust him. I trust God, and I'm going to trust the process.
And part of that is, I guess you could say, for us guys, part of it is us following through with our word and leading well, right? And I'm
Yeah.
not coming from the viewpoint of a Navy SEAL. I wish I was, because that would be extremely dope. But I'm not a Navy SEAL. I've never been in the armed forces. I'm not a police officer. And so it's like I would love to come from this rah standpoint. But when I say us guys have to lead, I just mean that in simplicity. It's leading. It's of course doing the best that you can do, but sometimes leading is saying, I'm gonna do more than the best that I could do. Leading says that I'm gonna research, I'm gonna read books, I'm gonna educate myself to make sure that I am leading my family well, because I can be a man of God, hear from God, have dreams, have visions, and I know when God is speaking to me. I've been doing this for so long that it's so obvious to me, based off of the track record in terms of like when I've gotten it wrong and when I've gotten it right. And so I kind of know the voice of God at this point, but that comes from training myself like a Navy SEAL, training myself like armed forces, almost to where it's rigorous, it's disciplined, because I cannot tell Jen all your dreams, all your ambitions. Oh, I know your new boss was about to like, or your old boss was about to promote you, but forget all that, babe. God is calling us to somewhere else. Do you know that you cannot call people into danger without being able to protect them, being able to give them clear direction, and being able to have a track record that says the last time you took us into this type of situation, we won. And so every single time that we've transitioned, especially based off of my input as the father, is we were able to do it successfully, and we were able to up our mode of living, or however you
Yeah.
would say, like
Yeah.
upward mobility was on
Yeah.
our side because of that. And so if you're a dude and you're listening, and you know that transition is coming, and you're trying to see how to practically get your wife to come on board and to know what's going on, your track record is going to mean a lot to the safety that is in your spouse's mind on how you approach transition. If you're haphazard, if you're always making decisions that don't end up anywhere, if you're always spending all the money, if you're always doing the most, and that's not something to feel horrible about, but it is something to clock and say, oh, let me get my stuff together. Let me get my act together to make sure that as I'm transitioning, these folks that are looking at me and saying, hey, we trust you, Dad. Every time you've led us, every time you caused transition, regardless of promotion that was here, regardless of all of our friends at school. I'm talking about my daughter left in her 12th grade year. Do y'all hear me? You have to move for your 12th grade year. That's like diabolical when you're raising kids.
Yeah.
But when God says move, and he's behind it, and you lead well, it could turn out well. And so I'm not sitting here scared of like what London is going to turn out to be. Oh God, Jen, she's going to be a stripper now. Oh God, she's going to be out there. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I talk to my daughter all the time. We break down things all the time. So now she's like practically making straight A's, cheerleading team, worship team, the whole nine, loving God, because you have to be intentional about transition, intentional about who you
Yeah,
talk to.
I was gonna say it's that intentionality. And to be clear, when God is speaking for a family to transition, a woman could be at the helm of the transition as well. It's not just only, your husband get a new job. It just so happens that for us, it has been that Tim's is in ministry, and so his ministry jobs have moved us. My job's steadily trying to promote me, and his jobs are always moving us out of state. And so I am appreciative, because I think one of the things that we had to work through in these 23 years of our relationship is, what does it mean for me to trust um, his role in our family and his positions and his job, because that just hadn't always been the case. We had to really learn how, number one, he had to like come into his role. He had to really come into, what does it mean to be the head of this family, the man of our, the leader in that way of our home? And how do we stand side by side together and trust each other? How do I trust that you have our family's best interest at heart? It came through actions. It came through answered prayers. It came through honesty and transparency. It came through me watching him truly grow into the roles, that it wasn't about him saying or just standing up like, I'm the man of this family. Like, that means your words mean nothing if your actions don't back it up. And so it wasn't just about the rah, rah, rah. It was really about the intentionality that he put into his relationship and his walk with God, the intentionality that he put into our family, the intentionality that he put into our marriage, and us learning together and trusting each other.
Yeah, when we moved, when I had to travel and I was gone for like 4 days out of a week,
Whew.
sometimes longer, because I would have to catch planes that our wallet could agree with, and so sometimes our wallet agree with the plane that would give me 3 full days at home, and then there was those moments where my wallet would say, "You got about a day and a half, my boy, at the house," and so that was a reality for almost a year where I was going back and forth, and so we would talk on the phone, literally like all day, every day. So that communication piece was important. Them being able to trust, you know, them being able to trust that we would spend as much time as we could in terms of my phone calls. Them being able to trust that when I got home, I would make it about them versus like ministry or trying to do business or whatever those things may be.
Um, this last transition that we just did the 10 months in, it was probably hard because the first time we transitioned, we all transitioned together, and like the pandemic shut us all down, and so we were together as a unit. The second transition, our son was in college. The kids, Judah and London and I, were at home. I was working, finishing up my work project, and he was traveling. This crazy schedule of like, you might be at home one day, you might be at home 2 days, but when you're home, uh, first of all, you got to fix this house up because we were putting it on the market.
At the same time.
Yeah. And second of all, you got to spend time with your kids because they are now missing the mess out of you because we have never spent this type of time apart. Him and I also, in the 23 years of our marriage, have never spent these type of days apart. So then it's like where, when we moved to Rochester, we made a bold, like, Friday night is date night, no matter what, it's weekly. But then suddenly we're in the middle of a transition and him traveling and us paying for that travel out of pocket. And then it's like, not only do you have to catch this plane, but we can't necessarily do the date night that we wanted to do or that we were doing previously. We also have to incorporate our kids into this situation. So it's like, how do we make sure that everybody feels included, everybody feels loved, everybody feels understood, everybody feels heard, even though it's hard as all get out. It was really difficult to say, okay, all right, when you come home, we're going to make sure that as me and you have been talking for 5 hours, that I let you
Talk to the kids.
talk to the kid. Yeah,
Even though we know I'm not going to be there for long.
Yeah.
Because I've been talking to you for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. And even our intimacy, we had to figure that out. What's that look like? What's that talk about? My boy ain't home for 4 or 5 days. How do we make sure that we really spend that type of time together?
How do we make sure we stay connected?
Yeah. And just making sure that we understood our needs. And I know that we live in a society where people, for whatever reasons, don't feel like communication is a part of their sex life and intimacy, but it really is. And so we really had to be intentional. We really had to communicate our needs in that moment and in the 10 months of transition. And then even after we made the 10-month transition, we had to have it was an adjustment to suddenly all be in the same space all the time.
Yeah, it was weird.
Even that was an adjustment, good one, but still, it's like, dang, I'm not even you. I had gotten into such a routine of what it meant to just be on my own for days at a time that, like, I'm scrolling my phone, like, bam, like, why are you just scrolling your phone all the time? I'm
your boy right here. What are you talking about?
That's what I got used to doing.
Yeah, and I think it was extremely hard, but we did it. And I think we have to point out the fact of the foundation that was there before we did it.
Yeah.
I don't think that if we argued all the time, if we had not preferred our kids, meaning put them first before a lot of different things and before ministry and all that good stuff, if we hadn't already laid that foundation, I don't think we would have been able to do it. And so people, I remember one guy was trying to copy off of me and my testimony because of what he saw us go through and how, we had succeeded, so to speak. And he was trying to reduplicate that. He was trying to duplicate it, but he was trying to do what we were doing without shoring up his end of the bargain. And so it didn't work out well at all. And so the trade-off here is, as we give information and you soak it up, you like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do, or that's what I'm gonna try out. The the pact that you and we have to all make together is that you're going to do due diligence on your end to make sure that you're communicating well with your spouse, meaning that you're going to be slow to speak, as the Bible would say, right? You're going to listen, fast to listen. You're going to make sure that you are loving your wife as Christ loved the church. Ladies, you're going to be respecting your husband. You're going to be treating your kids with honor and kindness, right? You're going to be doing all these things to set the stage for the transition that you're going to have to make, whatever transition that's going to be, because it's going to be extremely harder than whatever you thought it was going to be. Switching churches, moving cities, one of your kids going off to college, grieving, like a death in the family. All of these are transitions, and they're always all harder than what we think that they're going to be. The pact that we all have to make together is that as we share information, as we read our word, as we pray, that we're going to take that information and synthesize it. We're going to turn it into practical steps. We're going to turn it into an everyday thing, an occurrence where Jen and I, we wake up in the morning, we pray, we work out. I almost die in the mornings. Her new workout person is always trying to kill her, but that's a constant, right? Because that's a part of transition, is agreeing to say, I'm going to do the foundational things that need to be done in order for this transition to go well. If you don't agree with doing foundational things so that the transition can go well, then that's when the disappointment is going to take root.
And I think one of the things about transition in marriage, period, is that you do have to build that foundational communication and empathy. If you guys don't know how to communicate in truth, or if you're always playing like, if somebody always has to be tiptoeing around you when you're trying to share your feelings, you have to learn how to build a soft enough landing for your spouse to be able to say what it is that they feel. What does it mean for us to create a soft environment around our communication? For one, it is to promise each other that no matter what you say, if you say it truthfully, and if it's transparent, and if it is not something, if it's not a blaming or an accusatory statement, that I have a right to say it and I have a right to communicate it. So, for instance, when I'm up for another promotion, and I feel like I liked my job in Rochester a lot. I miss my job, and I made good money. And so when he started talking about this transition again, I had to express to him the pain that I was feeling of leaving yet another job, another good position, and what it felt like to continuously always be like the new girl at work, or to be in a situation where I'm always having to start over. That wasn't easy for me. That was painful. I'm not saying that I was most graceful in the way that I discuss, in the way that I was feeling it, but we had built enough trust and foundation to where we could at least talk about it.
Yeah. And it was a two-way street. She trusted me that she could put all the information out, and I wasn't going to take it personal. Like, man, I'm the one that's been talking to God.
Yeah.
Now you either going to trust me or not. It's like, she trusted that I wasn't going to flip on her. She also trusted that her feelings were going to be treated well and with respect, because they were real, very real, and they were actually very true. The only thing that made it, more like different than what she was feeling is God. Really, it wasn't anything I could say to that. Like, what am I gonna say? That was a real feeling. It was valid. The only thing that made the difference was the Holy Spirit. So that's a reality. But we're having so much fun transitioning. We're having so much fun with our kids, so much fun in our marriage, so much fun. You could be like, moving to other cities. It's like, yes, we're not stuck. We're not held down to anything. And it's not about moving all the time. But when you talk about transition and you talk about what God is calling you to now, we started this at the beginning, and we said that the reason why you want to talk about transition in marriage is because if you plan on being married for 50 years or more, like, it's going to be 1,000 transitions. So what questions do you guys have for us in terms of transition? Maybe it's around kids, maybe it's around intimacy, maybe it's around communication. What questions do you guys have for us to make sure we don't miss anything before we get out of here. We got our new marriage course is going to be dropping. It's called The Game of Marriage. It's based off of the top 10 reasons why people get divorced. It's going to be an incredible launch pad for people who may be struggling in their marriage for any of these things, whether it's communication, whether it's infidelity, whether it's what else we have in there, irreconcilable differences, all these reasons that people break up. And you might be like, well, we're not going to break up. But that's not the point of it. The point is that it's we're putting it in the game mode so that you can learn how to defeat these different levels that will ultimately defeat your marriage if you're not paying attention and it blindsides you.
Yeah.
But we're giving you the tools that you need to be able to defeat each of these things that have been taking out marriages for forever.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that.
And here's what we know. Statistically, marriage is rough, it's hard, and people are losing their battles. And so we want to see that we want to see marriages strengthened. We want to see couples feeling empowered and desiring to stay together and to be with each other. I think I had made up in my mind like a while ago, I refuse to be miserably married. And so it's like, and I don't want it to be some weird show. I wanted to enjoy the man who I'm with. And I wanted to be able to do marriage and do life together in a way that made sense to my brain and made sense to my head. And so if you guys have any questions, if you guys want to be a part of our text group, I got to get the number correct because I think we had the number wrong the last time.
I can put it in there.
We're about to put the number up. We want you to text us. We'll send you some encouragement. We want you to buy the course, if you know, and we want to take. I got to read that comment. I'm sorry. Yes, text this number to be a part of it. I want to read this comment. We're thinking about one of us moving with our son for the first year and stay here with our daughter. She's not taking that well at all. We tried to explain to her, but nothing we're saying is making her feel any better. She's 13. Part of me is like, girl, you're 13, you'll be fine. But you're right. I don't want to end up making her feel resentment. Help. Yeah. So if you guys are making a plan together, just like continuously talking to her, London really had a hard time with this move up here. And so I kind of, me and her cried together. I'm like, baby girl, I know that this is hard and I'm sorry that this is happening. This is what we feel like is the best thing for our family. This is what we feel like is the best thing for you. And in honesty, being very honest and earnest, this is how we're going to move. But I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you know that we support every part of this. We support you and we love you. But as a family unit, this is what me and your father have decided to do. I even had some parents up there offer to let her stay for the last year to finish high school. And that just wasn't a thing that I'm not willing to split. That's my baby girl.
Who was it that made the comment so I can make sure?
I know. I was trying to see.
Because it just tells us for whatever reason today, Facebook user. So who are you with the
tell us about the name here. I was trying to find it.
But you can go on.
But anyway, it was just like I was.
Got you, Ree.
Oh, okay. I really spent intentional time with her in the 10 months to say, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're feeling like we need to do as a family. This is how we're moving forward. I know it's hard because I think we can't shield our kids from hard. The truth is, it is hard. It is painful. This process of moving back and doing all this type of moving, it is painful. It hurts me. And so I think if you just keep talking to Kay, if you keep like hearing her out. Oh, and I had my therapist on tap for myself in this transition. I didn't care. I keep a therapist. But anyway, I had my therapist on tap and I made sure London had, I do therapy work. So I did sessions with my daughter, but I also got her she got some sessions with my therapist because I wanted her to feel heard. I wanted her to feel understood. I wanted her to feel valued. I wanted her to be able to work through the process because it is painful. But there is, especially if you're trying to move in the will of God and you're not out here just doing willy-nilly stuff. And I know sometimes as parents, there's some willy-nilly things that's happening. And so you moving your kids out. I'm not saying you doing that, Reed. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying in general, as people are listening and y'all ready to up and just move and you don't have any purpose and any goals in mind, it's really important to make sure that if you're going to take your kids on a journey and traipse them across whatever, that you have real purpose in mind and you have real understanding of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think at times, man, it is really difficult because you're
Yeah.
trying to ask yourself, like, are we doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Are we making the right moves?
Yeah.
And then are we like ruining our kids for forever? Are they going to forever hate us? And I agree, like that talking as much as you possibly can, and then having the plan for afterwards too.
Yeah.
So what's the plan afterwards? Are we saying that we're about to like move and we're going to stay separated for 4 or 5 years? Are we saying like this is for a year? And then what's the plan in between? Because if you're going to make, one thing that helps children is when you make these huge shifts and transitions, is if during the transitions you have what would you call maybe like stopping points or break points.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't, it's not kind to your wallet. It is not kind to your own purpose and plans, but it does support and care for their emotions.
Yeah.
And so what happens is like, okay, every 3 months or every 2 months, whatever it is, here's how we're going to see each other. Like,
Yeah.
bruh, but we not going to, we got this much savings or whatever. And we were trying to do some more things over here and over. It's like, well, none of those things matter. So now it's like we downsize over here, or, we use some money that we were going to use for Cancun, right? Well, Cancun doesn't matter anymore because what matters more is baby girl's emotions, right?
Yeah.
Or that our son is okay, he's taken
Yeah.
care of. So it's like you have to put together almost a family plan. It takes praying, it takes reading your Bible, it takes sitting down, especially if y'all got some time. But it takes putting a lot of thought into the plan of how is this going to go? What are the break points for all of our emotions, right? To make sure that we're taken care of. And some of it may be therapy as well. But we had these break points where it was like, okay, I'm going to plan to stay home for a week, 2 weeks or whatever. And we lazing around the house, not doing anything. We're just monitoring those little souls to make sure that they're okay. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. And remembering, like we've talked about it before, and we probably need to do another live about what it means to do real family assessments for marriages and for the family, for the children, so you make sure that your kids have input in, because this is their life. Guys, we're not, these kids are not robots. They are human beings who have feelings, who need to be able to express themselves. I'm not talking about they're being rude. I'm not talking about they're being disrespectful. I'm saying that they are really being heard, communicated to, and ministered to. In any transition, when you have children and when you, as a spouse, you have to be able to minister to them in a way that makes sense. The same way you discipline your kids in a way that makes sense, you communicate and minister to their hearts in a way that makes sense to them and who they are and how they learn and how they hear.
And I'm laughing because I think, Ryan, you're on here, and Ryan, he serves at our local church as our media marketing director. And he said something like, it was so simple. We were talking about church stuff and like, we got to do this. We got to plan over here. We got to go to the retreat over here. We got to do this. He was like, I think I asked him, what do you have planned? And he said, I have to go grocery shopping with my wife. And to the untrained ears, like, wait, first of all, do men go grocery shopping with their wives,
Yes.
And then it's like, what does it have to do with like church business or, the forward progression of the organization? But I was so happy when he said that, probably like to the point where Ryan might have been looking at me like, you all right? Like, you getting a little happy over the fact that my wife and I are going grocery shopping. But it's like, those are the things that I look for, because it means that you're aware, that you're tapped into your family. You're tapped into not just what matters, because then it's to the degradation of the organization or whatever it is you got going on, but you're tapped into the bloodline, your community, the things thing that's going to be there for you when all this other stuff is gone. You know who's going to be sitting there holding you and saying, it's going to be all right, babe. We're going to make it. It's going to be your wife. You know, your husband. You know who's going to be there when everybody is gone and you're a little bit older. It's going to be those kids. Who you think is going to be throwing you in them children's home? I mean, those children in the nursing home. It's going to be those children. Like
you didn't take care of.
When you want to spend time with your grandkids, or you're wanting to spend time with your now older children, but you treated them in such a way that it was like you didn't care and all you cared about was your upward mobility and your assignments and all this other mess. You really think they're going to want to spend time with you? You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be negative. I'm talking about the reality of transition. If you don't do it well, later on, your family is going to have a lot of resentment built up that you now can't do anything about except for ask for forgiveness.
And I think that leads to something else that we should have started off with. But part of building that foundation in your marriage is remembering, building that foundation for transition is like remembering that at the end of the day, it's the two of y'all. At the end of the day, it's the big five that are the most important to this whole thing. Because when that church falls apart or that job says no, even as my job talking about they're gonna, promote me, at the end of the day, they don't care about me like that. They were sweet enough to make sure that I finish my contract, that I get my unemployment, that they take care of me. But for real, this is where it's at. It's not at a job. It's not even at a church. Bless God, it's just not. It's here. It's what you've built in your family unit that's going to be the most important thing all the way around.
I feel that. And if you build this strong, and those other 3 kids and one in Washington D.C. somewhere, if you build that strong, everything else will be fine. Your ministry will be fine. Those jobs will be fine. All the other stuff, they will be okay. I'm talking about if you take care of this, you're actually taking care of all the other stuff.
Yes.
But have you ever tried to go to work and be effective when you are ignoring your spouse?
Yes.
Have you ever tried to be like, let me get this promotions, let me do this, when you're ignoring your spouse and then you come home and your marriage is all fractured? It's not fun at all. No. But I guarantee if you pay attention to your spouse, you take care of your spouse, and now you go to the job, you're going to be well grounded. You're going to have clarity. You're going to have more focus, more drive, more determination, et cetera, et cetera. And so you'll get even more promotions. So the point is to take care of this, and God will take care of the rest.
Yeah. Learning how to really take care of each other, learning how to build those soft foundations for everybody to be able to communicate. I didn't go deep into family assessments, but allowing your kids the space to be able to talk to you guys in the middle of any transition, allowing you guys to talk to each other through those pains, like, hey, this hurts right now. And I know during our 10-month transition, there was days when he left that I was mad. I'm like, what you mean you leaving? Right? You only been home, and it's like, I wasn't yelling at him now, but I was just mad because I didn't want him to leave so soon. It hurt. I felt I was lonely. I think in that 10 months, Sunday was the hardest day of the week for me because we have gone to church together for the last 20 something years. And here I am while he's working. That became his work day. And I'm at home really depressed. Come on, Dad, where you at, my boy? I'm sad, and just being able to discuss it though, talk about it, grieve. Part of transition is some grief there. The first time I left Winston-Salem, North Carolina, I sobbed my way out because I was leaving my dad. I was leaving my family. I was leaving everybody. And then we went and created a really good life in Rochester and I feel like we did well there. So then to come back, it was another sense of grief because now I'm having to watch my baby girl cry, my son cry. He was so sad to leave our neighbors. She was so sad to leave her best friends. And I had to give space for the grief. I cried because I was so sad to leave my job. Y'all had a good job. Let me find out they're watching. Y'all hired me back. I got some things I can do. Anyway, I had a good job. And so it was grievous for me. I'm going to be honest. It was not like, yo, this is hype. But on another end, it was hype to come back home. It was the right thing to do. And it actually was better all the way around for my health, for my knees, for, being back close to my dad, being back close to family. It was better for London to be back in this state for college, for school. It was better for Judah to enter um public school versus private. Like there were some things that just were better. And so there was some trade-off, there was some grief, and we just had to like, you had to deal with it. It wasn't just, it wasn't just it wasn't just something that was just so easy or just something so flippant. And we would never make this decision flippantly. We just
No.
didn't. And I think it's important that you remember, if you don't remember anything about today, it's how to build soft landings for your family and your spouse, how to be transparent, how to be empathetic, how to step into your spouse's shoes. Because I had to step into his shoes too, because I'm like, I'm watching him toil with his calling in a way that I'm like, all right, babe, I'm feeling good out here. I'm not gonna lie. My little checks was coming in. I was feeling good. I got an $8,000 raise and they back paid me. I'm like, what? I'm feeling good. So, but I still had to step into his space and be like, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I hear what God is, I hear what I hear. I hear it.
Yeah.
And either way, at the end of the day, it wasn't about my job. It's not about my old house. It wasn't about any of that. It was like, I know that as my husband is moving, I'm going too, because why? I ride with him and he rides with me. And so there is no job that's good enough to make me be like, okay, you go ahead on back and do what you're doing. There is no situation in my life where I'm happy without Tim in my space.
What's up, Elder Mo? Yeah, so
That
guys,
was you. I can't see your name, but I knew that's fresh. Yeah, we knew that.
Anyway, we're coming out with our course.
Yeah.
Next week it's going to actually launch, and then we go live on the 21st with the actual course. And so you're going to have the opportunity to join in next week, especially at our Pioneers Conference. But we'll make sure we put some stuff online. But next week we're going to come on live. We're going to be talking about God's idea of ownership, sexuality in marriage. And so we're going to be talking about how that looks and the things and the things that come to attack that, how to have healthy sexuality, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be good. We're going to go live next week, probably earlier in the week, because we have our conference coming up where we're going to be launching our course. But we want to make sure our marriages, families are full of faith and purpose. And so that's why we're here. Tim and Jen, Family, Faith, Purpose. Yeah. We love y'all. Text love to 443-399-2216 if you want encouraging quips. We don't even really hit y'all up that much. But when we do, it's like scripture is encouraging. And so, sign in where you can get in. Next week, we'll drop when the live is going to be. Probably do that after we end this. We'll be talking about God's idea of ownership, sexuality, and marriage. All right. We love y'all.
Bye, guys.
Peace.